people that have money have freedom and choice. If you don't have money, you don't have much freedom or choice of what you need to do when you want to do it.
Hey, it's Brad here. And before we get into the show, I want to tell you about the show sponsor. Now, I personally use this company in my own business. And so I was thrilled whenever they reached out and said they wanted to sponsor the show. Today's sponsor is JobTread. JobTread is an all-in-one construction management software. JobTread streamlines processes for builders and contractors from estimating and scheduling to job costing and invoicing. With JobTread, you can create precise estimates quickly, improving the chance of winning jobs, and their dynamic scheduling allows you to keep projects on track with Gantt charts and scheduling tools. JobTread also allows you to collaborate with teams, vendors, and clients in one location. No more missed information. Who said, she said. It's all in one location. And their API integration tools connect with your favorite software like QuickBooks Online, Hammer CRM, or any other API-friendly apps. JobTread is perfect for builders and contractors of all sizes. Whether you're a solo contractor or run a large team, JobTread scales to fit your needs and works great for remodelers, home builders, deck builders, pool builders, and general contractors. Try JobTread today and learn how it can help streamline, manage, and grow your construction business. Visit jobtread.com or click the link in the show notes for more details. Now let's get to the show. Hey, welcome back to the show. Today I have another special guest with me, Connor Tyson with Progress Solutions. Connor, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about something that some people may not want to necessarily talk about, but it's crucial, right? We absolutely have to have this conversation. Before we get into all this and deep dive, just give us a kind of a background of who you are, what you do, and just so we can kind of get a little teaser of what we're going to talk about.
A little background about myself. So I have a degree in finance. I was a financial advisor for 25 years, chartered financial consultant. Now I'm a full-time personal financial coach for small business owners and individuals. Married, 2 kids, love the outdoors, and that's who I am, really. Like I'm what you see is what you get. I'm pretty transparent, and yeah.
And you're in New York, right?
Yeah, if you can't tell by the accent, yeah. We'll get a cup of coffee after this. But yeah.
Awesome. So one of the things we're going to talk about is with personal finances, because this is something that I see a lot with contractors that I work with, ones that I have conversations with. You know, obviously there's the financial of the business, right? Like we got to make money, learn how to generate revenue, keep the money. But I talk about this a lot, and I always joke around. I say you can always tell when you go to like Home Depot and there's a new business, you know, a new contractor that you haven't seen before, and they have like a brand new, you know, 2024 F350 jacked up wheels, the whole 9 yards, and I'm like, that guy's going to be out of business in 6 months.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a lot of, you know, I help with how to make more money, right? How to put business things in your business to make more money. But let's talk about how to keep the money, or better yet, like a structure of how we should act with our money once we get it.
So you bring up a good point, right? So most people start a business to try to enrich their own lives, those around them, the people they love, right? And then if they don't have a process, if you will, on the personal side of things, they'll find out there's always a hole in the boat. They'll be constantly chasing revenue and clients and trying to live up to that standard of what their burn rate is on the personal side, and they'll be scratching their head like there's something wrong. And they'll focus on the business, and that's growing, turning into a cash-eating monster to feed the personal side of what's going on.
Yeah, we're talking about basically increasing your lifestyle the second you start making some money, and then, you know, things go south, and then you don't have any money, right?
Yeah.
And so like delayed gratification, you know, smart money habits, all that stuff comes into play here.
Yep.
What do you see? And I have my opinion on this, but I want to hear what you have to say. What do you typically see with, like, you know, new contractors, like first business they've started, you know, trades type people or small businesses? It could be a baker or whatever.
Yeah.
where they, they've never owned a business before. Now they start a business and they do start making some money. Like, where do you see where that derails? Like, where's the problem begin?
Two things. One is the lifestyle creep. As they make more money, they spend more money. And then the other thing is not having what I call a hills and valley account, right? So a hills and valleys account is another way of saying like an emergency fund, but it's not really an emergency fund. It's really a seasonal account where, okay, I'm making good money. Let's live below our means and put some money aside for those valleys that are going to come up. Winter, if you're a landscaper, it's not that, right? So having those things, so when those valleys happen, because it's their first time in business, they don't know the seasonality or the revenue stream of their business. They're not prepared for that. And then when they go in the valley, they don't have anything and they put everything on debt. And then the season starts up again, and the first 2 months of that is to pay off the debt they had during that valley. And then they get in that cycle, and it's a crazy way to do things.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about, it's not really an emergency fund, but it protects you against emergencies and it's not really an emergency because it's seasonal. Like if you've been in business 5 years,
it's to level out the cash flow.
Yeah.
To make the cash flow predictable.
I think people kind of understand this with business. Like, okay, yeah, I'm a landscaper. In the wintertime, we can't do landscaping. Maybe I pick up snow removal, whatever. But, let's just say I have an 8-month out of the year business. Most people that are starting can maybe have a little bit of foresight and see like, oh, in the wintertime, I'm not going to have any revenue. But for whatever reason, like that doesn't transfer over to their personal side.
Correct. Yeah. So with a business, like the 4 major things I talk about with small business owners: operating expenses, you want to be a lean, mean fighting machine on that. Taxes, you got to pay your quarterly estimated taxes. Salary or owner's compensation, you got to pay yourself to live off the standard of living you want, right? And then profit. You're in business to make a profit, right? So that owner's compensation piece, that's a big chunk of it sometimes, where you're paying yourself and it's hitting your personal checking account. If you got to manage that better, you would actually be able to weather a lot more storms in the future on the business side. It would level things out. You'd have less stress.
I like to say, like at a minimum on your business, you need to have about 3 months, a minimum of 3 months of operating expenses set aside.
Gosh, yep.
What's your thoughts on time? Like
how much 3 to 6, right? It depends on the revenue of your business. But as you're starting out, you want to put at least 3 months of operating expenses aside, and then grow that. That's not just the finish line. You want to grow that. And then you can have an expansion account, which I call, you want to grow the business, right? Some people have the tendency to dip into that thinking that's a good idea. No, set up a separate account for expansion, equipment and all that other stuff.
So on the personal side, what do you recommend in terms of like how much money you should have for personal expenses?
Oh yeah, 3 to 6 months of your core expenses. So what are the core expenses? Housing, food, utilities, medicine, and transportation. Those 5 things, multiply them by 3 to 6 months. If you're a single income household, you want to have 6 months. If you have 2 people working, right, gotcha. 3 months.
And transportation doesn't mean go out and buy that brand new truck.
No, don't buy the truck. Just we're talking gas and car payment. And if you have a car payment, you want to get that out of your life as fast as possible.
Yeah, but the thing that I see is that like they look at it from, I'm making this much money a month in my business, right? So now that means I have X amount of money. Let's just say I'm making $10,000 a month in my business. I'm brand new. I'm by myself. I don't have any employees. I'm making pretty decent money, 10 grand a month. And now I have, $4,000 or $5,000 of extra money, profit in the business. And so now I want to go out and get that truck that has a $1,500 a month, payment with a crazy 20% interest rate because my credit's shot, but hey, I'm making the money. I can afford it. Right. And then 2 months after you buy that truck, the leads stop coming in. A client doesn't pay you, like all of these things happen. And now you've just shot yourself in the foot because your cash flow is not there to pay for your personal side that you've created. I have a module in my training it's like, don't increase your lifestyle yet. Like the purpose of this is to increase our lifestyle, but it's not to do it the second you make a little bit more money. Can you just speak a little bit about that and what you've seen with clients?
It's the mentality. I always say create a good defense before an offense.
I like that.
Right? So what is it? like defense wins championships, right? So it's the boring stuff that you don't want to do right now, like emergency funds, sinking funds for goals that you have, paying off debt, lowering the expenses on the personal side. And then once you have that solidified, sure, as you make more money, now you can start going after those aspirations of things you want. It's delaying the instant gratification of I deserve this for just a season of time. And people think it's forever. It's literally less than a year. If you actually focus on one thing at a time and prioritize where do I start and what do I need to do to get this, and you check these things off your list, you're doing better than 90% of everybody around you. And then when things do happen, there's no stress. You have it. You've heard, when's the best time to rebuild your roof? When it's sunny out, not when it's raining. So same idea. When things are good, it's sunny out, business is doing good, make sure that you're taking care of your personal side and solidifying the what ifs, the defense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me ask you this. This may be controversial. Are you a fan of Dave Ramsey?
Not a fan. I mean, I wouldn't say I was a fan. No, he's not a financial coach. It's kind of like my way or the highway, where everybody's situation's unique. And I believe you have the answers inside of you. It's just to ask the right questions to find out what it is you really need to do for yourself. He has good financial principles that are solid, but I think his approach is a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that is I went through his Financial Peace University. My wife and I paid off a bunch of debt, all that stuff. So, I'm grateful for that, his teachings and stuff. But what I do like about Dave is what he's really talking to is financial, what's the word I'm looking for? Like personality flaws, right? Like financial personality flaws or financial habits, bad habits.
Habits and behaviors.
Behaviors, that's the word I'm looking for. Golly. I need to drink some more coffee this morning. He speaks to, the behaviors, the bad behaviors that people have with finances. And he's really treating that, because if you look at it from a strictly mathematical, it's not the best way to pay off debt. But what I've noticed in business, some of those teachings really hurt you and limit you, because there is a such thing as good debt in business. Like there's investments and things that are going to make you more money. And so I've come up against this many times when I'm working with a small contractor who is interested in getting coaching. And it's not it's not cheap to get coaching, but it's like, well, I want to be able to pay cash. I don't want to put it on a credit card. I don't want to get a loan. I don't want to do anything. I want to fund the whole thing up front. And that's great. But if it's going to take you 6 months to a year to save up that money, then you're missing 6 months to a year worth of opportunity costs and, return on your investment. And so I come up across this, and I just know it's prevalent in the blue collar industry. A lot of blue collar guys are conservatives. They don't like to spend money. They want to pay cash. Nothing wrong with that. But I just think there's times where you got to take risk. You got to make smart, debt investments or smart, use debt in a good way. Can you speak a little bit about that in terms of using debt in a good way versus in a bad way?
Yeah, I see debt as a tool, right? It's a financial tool is what it is. You can actually use it to your advantage if you have the financial discipline, right? I use credit cards. I have loans, right? Not a bad thing. I just pay them off with cash. So I use them as a leverage tool to run money for 26 days, right? Then pay it off in full as I go along. You get in trouble when you don't have the habits and behaviors, the intentionality. You're reactive versus proactive, right? That's when you get yourself in a jam. And that most of your audience know what to do. If I asked any blue collar worker, how do you become financially successful and wealthy? They'll rattle off, spend less than I make, avoid debt that doesn't make much sense and I can't afford it. Save for the future. Give to others around me and be generous with what I have, right? They know this. It's not the what, right? It's more the why and the how, the habits and behaviors. It's human nature to avoid those things you don't understand. And even with running a business, right? You have a great passion of an idea, product, and services. Like, great, now go run a business. It's two totally different games. And no one has really taught you how to manage money on your personal side. And the habits and behaviors is really what it's about. It's the accountability and follow through of what to do, prioritize what you need to do, and make sure you do it.
So if people intuitively know what to do, then why don't they do it? What's the
It's the habits and behaviors. It's the mindset. It's the instant gratification. It's the lack of communication and clarity of what's in it for me if I do this, what's in it for me if I don't do this, right? The clarity of, okay, I need a new truck. What's the consequences of getting that new truck now? Not today, but 6 months from now, right? Or can I afford this? I'm okay with you using debt if you have the cash flow to pay that debt. Wealthy people have assets that produce income to pay for things. They don't buy Ferraris with cash.
Right.
They have an asset that kicks off enough income to pay the lease payment. And then, that's how wealthy people work. They are not using cash for things. They're leveraging their dollars through debt instruments, and they definitely have the money or the cash flow to pay those things off, even if they're called upon them.
Yeah, and also a lot of times they will leverage the loan for the vehicle because they can take, let's say it's $100,000, $150,000 vehicle. They could take that $150,000 and put it into an asset that generates revenue that pays for the vehicle loan payment. And
Correct.
So it's almost like a wash, but it's also building long-term assets that they can sell later on, and then recoup the investment on that at a second time, basically double dipping into the profit. So that's a little more advanced for a lot of the guys that we're dealing with. But as someone who's paid cash for 2 vehicles, my wife's and mine, I'm like, I'll never pay cash for a vehicle again. I'll always have a loan. I mean, I may pay it off, and keep it. Yeah. But I'll never go and drop, 60, 100 grand on a vehicle again, because I can use that money to generate further asset producing income. So again, that's a little more advanced for some of the stuff. Break it down for us and keep it, KISS method, keep it simple.
Okay.
What can guys do who are listening to this that are struggling with personal financial, maybe they're doing okay in their business, but they always run out of money at the end of the month? Like, what are some basic things that we can put in place right now to start righting the ship?
Okay, so you got to get awareness and clarity of where you stand today.
What does that mean? Like, break that down for us. So what does that mean? Yep. Awareness and clarity. Clarity is understanding where your money's going today. Okay.
Right? So you just list out your expenses. Here's your income minus your expenses. You start with the necessities, those emergency fund necessities, the housing, the food, or everything like that. Then you go to the variable things and you prioritize those. Is Hulu and Netflix more important than some other variable expense? Okay. Then you can see where you either run out of money or what's left over. If you run out of money, you have to go through what I call cash flow triage. You have to make hard decisions together, if you're married, as to what it is you truly want and need. Okay. If you have money left over, as Dave Ramsey says, you got to give it a job. You have to tell that money where to go based upon your goals. That's where the clarity piece comes in. You have to prioritize all these things that are floating in the back of your head. Get them out on a piece of paper. We need an emergency fund. We got to pay off debt. We got 2 kids summer camp. We have college coming up. We have retirement. Right? Just write all these things out. And then look at the importance and the urgency of each one of those and focus on one thing at a time. That's clarity. What does success look like? Those things. And then once you're there, you have to start gaining control of your money. You'll realize really quickly that I don't have the tools and resources, the habits and behaviors that align with what success looks like.
How do we define success though? Because I know it's different for everyone, but
it's different for everyone.
What's a generic definition of success?
Being able to buy the things you want to do when you want them, right? People that have money have freedom and choice. If you don't have money, you don't have much freedom or choice of what you need to do when you want to do it. So that's my definition of success.
Gotcha. And so we need to define what our success looks like. So one of the things that my wife and I like to do is we like to go out and eat.
Sure.
And so whether that's $1,000 a month or $500 a month or whatever, like putting that in the budget of like, this is important to us. We enjoy this. This is how we want to spend money. Then as long as it's in the budget.
Correct. Yep. And then what's the opportunity cost of that priority list? If you're putting $1,000 towards eating out, what on this list is not getting addressed? Right.
Right.
So if you can eat out, it's important. Bring the family together, right? Community, all that stuff. Great. Maybe you can bring it down to $500 and put $500 towards paying off debt or the college fund.
By the way, like if you have debt, I wouldn't recommend going out.
I've seen it happen. Right? So
we actually shifted now. My wife's really into baking and sour bread, and she's making all kinds of fresh ingredients, which I appreciate and love. And so we've been eating at home a lot because we're eating healthy now versus eating out. But in the past, that was something that we had in our budget. It was eating out, And so we're talking about being responsible with the money. Let's pick a married couple. We're meeting with our spouse. We're together going and looking at all of our expenses and buying habits. Like, why are we buying all this at Target and Amazon, right? And then we're looking at what we define as success. Maybe we want to eventually one day buy some land and build a house or whatever that is. And we're looking at the long-term effects of that and what that's going to cost. And then we're balancing this. We're doing this balance game of like, what do we have to pay? What's left over? And whatever's left over, we can apply towards, either more debt that we're paying off or towards our goals, our success, our target, if you will. What else is we have to consider with this? Like, what are we missing? Hey, just a quick time out from the show. If you're a frustrated contractor who's dealing with low profit margins, stuck working on the tools every day, or doing free estimates for people who are never going to hire you in the first place, I invite you to my private contractor community, the Profit Club, where contractors just like you are adding 2 to 3 times more profit each year without producing any more jobs and finally getting completely off the tools to never do another free estimate again. So if you're ready to increase your profits, stop doing free estimates and get off the tools, then all you have to do is click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Profit Club and see how it can easily 2 to 3 times the cash in your pocket, give you a proven sales process that will convert more jobs with ease and get you off the tools once and for all. And the best part is you can do all of this without having to produce more jobs than you currently are. Click the link to learn more. Now let's get back to the show.
You have to make that whole process a habit.
Okay.
You have to make that a behavioral thing where you have just regular, like 15-minute stand-up check-ins. Like, how are we doing with, did you call the home and auto insurance person? Can we reduce that premium? Yeah, I got to call them next Wednesday. Great. Celebrate the successes. Keep the motivation going, because this is like a journey. This is not like wave the wand, you're good in a year.
Yep.
Right? So you want to transform your relationship with money on the personal side, and you just make it part of what you need to do. I imagine if you went through the Ramsey thing, you have the monthly budget, right, meeting, the family budget meeting, and you talk about things that are coming up. Proactive also means look in the future. What's coming down the train tracks that are like right now? I'm talking about summer camp. Yep. I have 2 kids. It's summer camp. It's a big ticket item where we are, right? And it's like, okay, what are we doing to have the cash to pay this? Are we going to put it on a credit card? Absolutely, but we'll have the cash to pay it off, right? What are we doing? What do you suggest we do, right? And I was like, okay, I can work overtime. I can do this. We can reduce that. And that way you're working as a team. And there's no more money fights. You're on the same page as to what you're doing, why you're doing it, and celebrating the successes as you're going along.
So I want to circle back to what you said a while ago about being proactive versus reactive. So proactive is, in 2 or 3 months, whatever, summer camp's coming up, and let's say that's going to be a $500 investment for your kids. I'm not waiting until the week before the deadline is due and the wife comes or my spouse comes and says, hey, we want to sign little Johnny up for summer camp. It's going to be $500. And I'm like, well, we don't have $500, right? That's the reactive. Well, let's put it on a credit card, high interest rate credit card, because we don't want to deprive Johnny of that experience. And so now I have a $500 payment or $500 on the credit card that I'm going to end up paying $750 for long term. If I would have just had a little bit of foresight, a little bit of proactivity, and understand like these things are coming up and going to happen. Do you recommend doing like a beginning of the year? These are some potential things that we may look at doing this year, like major investment kind of stuff.
Absolutely. We know the things that are happening every year. Like every year we want to have a family vacation. We do it every July, right? That's something that's on our calendar and we start proactively saving for every single year. It's a sinking fund, which is just basically, the price and you start chipping away at that on a monthly basis, or we do it paycheck to paycheck we get paid biweekly. So every biweekly frequency, we take $80, $100, whatever the price is, out of the paycheck and put it into a savings account earmarked for those things.
Yeah. So you're like you said, earmarking for that. Same with your business. Like you were talking about, the Hills and Valleys account, having I called it a rainy day fund. And so, I knew that in the wintertime when we slowed down, there would be days where there wasn't anything going on. And so I would just put a small amount, like 5% into that account. And then in the wintertime, I had money in there that I could pay my guys to come in and sweep the shop and organize the vehicles and things that were non-income producing activities to kind of catch us back up and keep them busy. And so that's what we're talking about on the personal side too, is like recognizing what's coming up and then making sure we're earmarking that money in advance.
Yep. Perfect example of the Christmas party.
Yes.
Right? Christmas. I'm saving for my business's Christmas party now. It's part of the whole thing. And then I'm like, on my personal side, I want to be able to give my kids and my family the gifts I want and how much we decided together, how much we're going to spend on Christmas on gifts.
Yep.
Right. We went back and forth on that one, but it's a 4-digit number. And I'm like, okay, this is what's going to take to do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you think you're going to spend $1,200 on Christmas, it's $100 a month.
Yep.
$100 a month for putting away. Like it's not that hard to figure that out.
Correct.
It's not waiting until December 23rd and being like, oh, we got to go buy all these gifts and we got to spend $1,200 that we don't have.
Yeah, and then paying it off in March. And then you're waiting on the tax refund, if you get one, to pay it all off. Yeah. To your point, it's the behaviors. It's not a math problem. We know how much it costs, what it's coming, when it's coming. The curveball I got was a wedding. I just got invited to a wedding.
Yep.
I got 2 months. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm happy for them. Great. Right, I got to come up with like $300, and I'm like, all right, let's put some money aside. We thought we were going to do this, but let's put some money aside for that.
I'm glad you said that because this applies to a lot of 20-somethings. Their friends are getting married, and you have like 6 weddings in 1 year that you're a groomsman or a bridesmaid in, and you got to buy your own dress and everything else. It's $200, $250 or more for every wedding that you're doing throughout the year. Like, obviously you don't know when someone's necessarily going to propose, but
once you get that invite,
that like, hey, so-and-so just got married and she asked me to be a bridesmaid. And so I got to, in 6 months or a year, I got to start planning for that. So like all those little things that come up and the unknowns.
Baby showers, christenings, and it happens. It's life.
Yeah. New home parties and, whatever it is, like everybody wants money, right?
Housewarming parties. These are all things that come up.
I want to talk about one something a little bit different, but it's part of this. And that is, I know this happens a lot. It's happened to, I've been guilty of this. My kids have been guilty of this. It's like, you get to the Christmas time and you don't have any money. It's like, I tell my daughters like, dear, I don't need a gift. Like if you don't have any money, please do not go out and put it on a credit card to buy me a gift. I do not need a gift. But this idea of like, you're going to disappoint people because you don't have the funds. And so, I'm going to put myself in financial risk. And it's not just Christmas. This is about anything. I'm not going to embarrass myself. I don't want to disappoint people. So I'm going to put myself in financial risk just because I don't want to be that person. Mm-hmm. Do you see that happening a lot?
I've been guilty of it. In the beginning of my financial journey, when I was in debt, I was 23 years old. I looked down, I was like, oh my God. I had to say no to the things I had to say no to and yes to the things I had to say yes. One of those things was in the summertime, they used to go out to Long Island and spend the weekend. It was like a $600 weekend. I had to have enough clarity and gumption to know this is something I need to say no to get my financial house in order and how to articulate that to people. At the end of the day, no one really cared. No. I took it on as guilt, shame, remorse around it, embarrassment. What I found is most people are very self-centered and they really care about themselves more than whatever it is that you're doing until it's like whatever. But as I started doing those things and not denying myself those things, but like aligning what success looked like for me with my actions, I started building momentum and it got easier and easier and easier because I started getting the fruits of what that was. And then I looked back and it made a huge, huge difference. Clarity, that's part of that clarity piece.
The thing that's crazy to me is, and you mentioned this earlier too, is like, if you would just like become crazy, Dave says gazelle intent, but if you just become crazy and like stop all spending, I'm talking like, eat ramen noodles and Vienna sausages, and you did that for like 6 months.
Yep.
You can completely change your entire situation in a very short period of time.
Correct.
Right.
It's not sustainable though.
It's not sustainable, but I mean, for a short period of time, like you could set yourself up for the rest of your life in like a 6 month to a 1 year period where you do this. But what happens is people are like, well, I don't want to change my comfort level. And so then what is it turns into a 10-year ordeal where you're always struggling and always having problems. But if you would have just taken that 6 months to a year and just suffered, right, then the rest of your life you'd be set up.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's something. Go ahead.
You're 100%. In my experience, life happens fast. Like we just talked about the wedding, right? Like you graduate high school, you may go on to college, you may not. You work, you get engaged, you have a baby, you start looking for a house, 2 car payments, credit cards, the oil bill, summer camp, clothes for the kids, sports. But you look up and you're like, oh my God, and you're 34, 35. And you realize like, whoa, I'm fighting every other Wednesday with my spouse here. This is not what I pictured. And I call it hit the restart button. Like you said, the 6 to 12 months, like I coach people for a minimum of 3 months because it's transformational. You have to transform the way in which you are dealing with money and finances. Everything from communication, being able to tell the kids no, setting boundaries, getting proactive versus reactive, getting some small successes, and then building on that. The accountability and follow through to stay on that path, it's a game changer.
Yeah, but Connor, my son was invited to a birthday party with one of his classmates. You know, I have to go buy a $30 Lego set for him because I don't want to show up without a gift.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
I don't tell people what to do with their money. Like that's the other thing too. Like I don't tell people what to do with their money. It's about what you decide and what that means for you. So like I help people become like smart consumers. SMART. You might have heard this. So S is self-aware. Why am I buying it? What is my motivation? M, right? Am I angry, sad, feel inferior? A guilty pleasure? A, affordability. Can I actually afford this? The $30. If I put the $30 towards this, I can't put $30 towards Starbucks. And if I do, I run out of money and I know the consequences of that. R, research, to do my research, right? Is this the right vendor? Is this the right price? Can I get it somewhere cheaper? Right? T is the time or opportunity cost of those decisions. Today, it's a $30 gift. Tomorrow, it might be a $3,000 patio set. If you do this, what is it that you're giving up in lieu of that? It might be the $3,000 IRA contribution. It might be the family vacation, again, that you missed. It could be an emergency fund. It could be a lot of different things. Oh, the boiler just went. I don't have the $1,200 for it because I spent it on that. It's just becoming more aware and conscious of your decisions and just pausing and asking yourself questions. I don't tell people don't buy Starbucks. Like, let me take the only joy you have left in your life so you can save $30 a week. Okay, well, if that's really, really important, keep it. What else are you willing to do? It's easier to make more money also than cut expenses.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that.
So I help people with, I help them stop the eternal tug of war with their personal finances. That's what I do. Like there's a constant struggle of either paying Peter to pay Paul or making decisions about if I swipe this card, like your lip starts sweating because you're like, I don't know if this is going to actually go through. Who wants to live like that? And the reason why it's like that, because life happens fast and no one really sat down with you and said, listen, this is how it works. It's a proven thing as to habits and behaviors that go along with that.
What's the first step you take when you bring on a new client with the personal side who has bad habits? Like what's the first thing or step that you have them do to try and right the ship? I mean, obviously they got bad habits, so you gotta change the bad habits, right?
Yeah, this is the whole thing. Their why. It has nothing to do with the numbers. Like I've worked with people that make a lot of CEOs of companies all the way down to single mothers of 3. It's not a money thing. You have to get clarity on your why. Why are you wanting to transform or change the financial picture? And it's not, I want to get out of debt. That's not the reason you're going to do this.
Right.
That's not really what you want. What you want is, what is it making you feel? What is it preventing you from doing? How long have you felt like this? Who else is dependent upon this change in your life? And the deeper you go with that, and the more vivid you make that, the further you'll go along and the faster and the more drastic your change will be. And the stick-to-itiveness to it. Because if you get that really vivid, you'll realize the consequences of not doing the things you should be doing for yourself. It's not up to me. It doesn't affect me at all. for you, but it's affecting this person a lot.
So would you say
and that's where I first start?
So would you say that like they have to have the mindset of, if I do this thing, it's costing me something else. There's a trade-off. There's an awareness of the trade-off that's happening. And if I'm okay with that trade-off, then by all means, go get the Starbucks. But if you can't pay your cell phone bill and you're buying Starbucks,
if you're winging it every month, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't have to live by the seat of your pants to make decisions of groceries or gas.
That's a reality for a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, I would say majority of America lives like that. Even people that are successful. I mean, you see doctors and lawyers who are making $200,000 a year and they're broke because they're living just a little bit above their means, right?
Yep.
They have a $210,000 lifestyle and they're making $200,000. And it's like, that doesn't work. Mathematically, that doesn't work.
Nope. It's the same as someone making $65,000 and the CEO making $650,000. It's the same thing. You just chopped off a zero. It's the same habits and behaviors. It's the same stuff. It's the clarity as to why they want to change, the principles and values they want, and then gaining control of that. Actually getting a coach or a financial consigliere to sit over your shoulder and say, okay, what is the most important thing? Just giving them advice and guidance. They don't tell them what to do. You don't tell the Don what to do. You just give counsel.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how it works. And over time, celebrate the successes, and then they'll start seeing for themselves that it's working. There's nothing better than going on a family vacation and with everybody and paying cash and not having to worry about it. Nothing. Like it's a beautiful thing. Paying for all your Christmas gifts in cash and you have nothing to worry about. You don't have to pay it off till March.
Yeah.
The car you talked about, right? It's great to have buying a storage unit, having enough income to be able to buy that truck, and then 10 years later I can sell the storage unit for more than what I paid for it and also sell the truck. It's a beautiful thing. You have more freedom and choice of what you do, and your life changes. Like your family, you don't have to deny yourself those things you want to, do.
It truly is. I mean, you have to look at it and say every decision I make is costing me something somewhere else. Even like time. If I agree to go do this event, it's costing me time. It's costing me time away from my family. What's more important? So financially, you have to make that decision of like, every time I spend this money, is it important to me? And I want to throw a caveat here. If you want to do something just because you want to do it and it's fun to do, like that's okay.
Yeah.
But own that. Like say, no, I'm going to go waste money on this thing because it's something I want to do. A lot of people try to they kid themselves and like, oh, I need this. I need this new truck. And it's like, no, you don't need that new truck. You want that new truck. And if that's what you want, then that's fine. But don't lie to yourself and say it's a need.
A perfect example of that, I go salmon fishing up at the Great Lakes, right? That charter weekend, we buy a little bungalow, we go deep sea fishing. It's over $1,500. There was a time where I didn't have the cash flow to pay that. I had a newborn baby, all this other stuff. It was important to me. I didn't say I needed it. I said it was important to me because it was a weekend with my brother.
Yep. And
years later, the memories from that weekend were worth it. Did I pay for it? Yes. Looking back, hindsight 2020, yeah, I would have done the same things over and over again. It's not about denying those things that are important to you for other reasons outside of just, right? It was memories, it was family, and back to the Christmas thing, it's not about the gifts. If you think about the best Christmases you had, it wasn't about the gifts. It was the people around the table, the laughs, the memories, the things that you take with your life. That's what, for me and my family, that's what that really matters, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's clarity around those things. And a lot of people are trying to build a car, drive down the highway, trying to figure it out as they go along. And it's not working out too well.
I wanted to throw it out there as like the keeping up with the Joneses, and that guilt of not doing what everyone else does gets a lot of people in trouble. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I would rather have a well thought out card from my daughters that's teary eyed than a $30 sweatshirt that with something funny on it. My dad's the greatest farter or whatever, like that I'm not going to wear out in public. You know what I mean? Like, don't spend your money on that stuff. Just give me a card. And
the other thing too about the Joneses, right? Like you've heard the grass is always greener on the other side. Yeah. That guy takes care of his lawn, right? That's what it comes down to. It's like those things that you focus and give attention to grow, be it good or bad, right? If you think negative, 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 you attract negative. If you think positive, 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 right? If you focus on money and getting like intentional about it, things open up and opportunities arise. I don't know how that happens, but the grass is always greener on the other side because that guy takes care of his lawn.
Yeah, the grass is greener where it's watered.
And you got to start watering, right? Taking care of your financial backyard. It's just...
Yeah, you got to water your bank accounts if you want them to grow. There's so much psychology and, you could probably even say some woo-woo stuff around, thoughts around money and laws of attraction and all that stuff. Way too deep to go in on this podcast. But
yeah,
there are definitely things out there around scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset, and a grateful mindset for that. So these are all great tips, to kind of get you on the right path, not falling victim to, keeping up with the Joneses, which, funny story, my neighbor's name is actually Jones. Just happens to be across the street. But anyways, they not falling victim to this desire to look good or not look bad, and really be very proactive, very intentional with where every dollar goes. Some people use a zero-based budget. It's like every month we spend every penny. Some of that money goes into fun and food and stuff. And so just to kind of wrap this up a little bit for us, what's some final thoughts that you have around, personal money and habits?
This is an area that causes a lot of trauma and difficulties in people's lives unnecessarily. I truly believe that it's kind of like politics. They don't want to have a well-informed, engaged populace, because if you actually knew what to do and had started doing it, they wouldn't have control over what it is that you do, and you're being basically victim to the system, right? And you can hit the restart button. If you've had enough and you said, okay, I got to change what I'm doing, there are people out there that'll help you today. And people think it's this huge mountain you have to climb over. It is not. It's tweaking a couple things and consistency of that transforms family trees. It changes your whole life. And then you can help somebody else because you know what it takes. And that's what I want to preach. Like, I want to be the loudspeaker of that. Like, it's just, I've seen it all over the place. A lot of people suffer from it, and I just want to be that solution. Hence the name of my company, Progress Solutions. Like, you're not making any progress, I can be the solution to that. Right. So that's what I want to just bestow on people. You have the ability to do this. It's just you might not know how or have the habits and behaviors to do that, or the tools and resources. And there's people out there that can help you.
Yeah. In every area of your life. It doesn't matter if it's finances or business. There's someone out there that can help you, marriage, whatever. I don't care. Relationships, communication, sales. There's people out there to help you. So, and by the way, those are all investments, right? Yes, that's not an expense. That's an investment. So awesome. Well, Connor, give us some information. Where can people learn more about your services, what you do? Kind of tell us where they can find you.
My website is Progress FC, like financial coaching, progressfc.com. There's a lot of tools and resources on there, free. Everybody, all your listeners get a 45-minute consultation. They want to talk through their situation. Doesn't cost them a dime. Just looking to help people. I'm also on Instagram, Connor, the financial coach. You can look me up on Facebook too. It's just Connor Tyson in New York. That's it.
Awesome. All right. Well, one last question I always like to ask everybody, and I'm just checking here. Looks like we have your Instagram and your Facebook and your LinkedIn. So we'll put those links in the show notes. But I like to ask one last question, and that is, what's a book that you're currently reading or one that you recommend?
So there's a book, I don't know if you see it in the background there. It's about the Oregon Trail. It's on that table right there. So it's a book I'm reading called The Oregon Trail. And the reason I got it is there was people that expanded this country that actually took so much risk. None of them spoke the same languages, and somehow they expanded the United States and made a life of their own when they had nothing and they gained everything. And it's like an amazing story. So I'm reading that. Business books. Right now, I don't know if it's a business book, but the Mel Robbins Let 'Em.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that recently.
Book, you're right. That's the hot topic nowadays. That's really about control. I'm a parent of two, right? So it's like constantly telling them what to do. They don't listen, and it gets frustrating. So Let 'Em. Yeah, I've read many, many books, but those are the two most recent ones.
Is the Oregon Trail one, is that the name of it?
Yeah, the Oregon Trail, The American Journey by Rinker, Rinker Buck, B-U-C-K. It's kind of a historical thing, but he actually went and reenacted him and his brother going on the Oregon Trail in an old wagon in the 19th century.
Wow. That'd be interesting. Yeah. Especially if you like history and how that came about. I mean, it sounds like kind of like early on entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And he was going through a really tough time in his life. Yeah. It's an awesome book. It's an awesome book. He was going through a divorce and he was just a mess. And he was like, you know what? He was always a history buff, and he was out in the Midwest, and he came across a museum, and it motivated him to be like, you know what? I'm going to do the Oregon Trail. And he made this whole plan within a year. He was out there on his own doing the Oregon Trail.
Key word there, plan, right? He made a plan.
Yeah.
And then he executed.
Made a plan. Follow through.
Awesome.
And then he wrote a book about it. He's probably getting royalties and tons of money when he had nothing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Connor, thanks again for being on our show. I really appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, guys, that's the end of the show. You know where you can find me on the social media platforms. Just search for the Hammer and Grind podcast or go to the show notes. I do want to ask you, if you enjoyed this show or any of the shows, make sure you leave us a review on your favorite platform to help get the word out. And remember, guys, until next time, profit is not a dirty word.